How's it going, everybody? Cubing sponsorships are probably the most misunderstood thing in all of the cubing community. And that is because there's not a lot of people who are sponsored by a cube store or a cube manufacturer. Well, I can help you there because I'm sponsored at thecubicle.com. I've been sponsored for about 2 months, and I kind of just want to clear some things up that people who are watching might not understand about sponsorships. So that's why I'm making this video. I'm going to go over 10 misconceptions about cubing sponsorships.
Number 1. Sponsorship is about getting free cubes.
The idea that cubing sponsorships are about the person getting free cubes seems to be pretty widespread throughout the people who aren't sponsored in the cubing community. And this is the completely wrong attitude towards sponsorships. And if you show that attitude while you're applying that you're just in it for free cubes, you are going to be turned down. Basically, it's about being beneficial for both parties involved. You need to bring something to the table that the cube store can benefit from, and then in return, they can benefit you. But it won't always be directly just free cubes. Like, I don't even get free cubes. I just have like discounts and other ways that I am supported through it, and in return, I support the cubicle. But yeah, if you're in it for free cubes, you have the wrong mindset.
Number 2. Subscribers are the most important thing when applying for sponsorships, and you need a certain amount of them in order to be sponsored.
This is another one that I see quite often. Now, subscribers definitely can be important when you're trying to apply for a cubing sponsorship. It's much better to have a larger number of subscribers than a smaller number of subscribers, but that's not the thing that they're really going to judge you on. And what you really want to focus on is your potential. Not where you're at right now, but where you can be. And that's what I focused on in my application, is my potential and what I could offer to the cubicle in terms of how I could benefit them. And if you focus on that, then it's much more likely that you'll succeed in getting sponsorship with a lower amount of subscribers like I did. But if you get it into your head that it's only for people who have, let's say, 1,000 subscribers, well, you're probably never going to work up the courage to actually apply for your sponsorship.
Number 3. Sponsored cubers are being paid to say something about the cubes that they are reviewing, and therefore their opinions cannot be trusted.
This one is pretty common among people who just watch sponsored or big cubers, and it's the idea that because they might be getting a cube for free, that they're being paid to say something about the cube, which is not really true. That's kind of true with most YouTube sponsorships by whatever, like Raycon earbuds or whatever that one game is that sponsors everyone. Oh yeah, Raid Shadow Legends, that's what it's called. But that's not really true with cubing sponsorships. Basically, just because they're getting the cube for free doesn't mean the words that they're saying aren't theirs. In fact, it actually makes it more so because they feel like they should be more honest with their review because they're sponsorship, and it's a sense of integrity. Truth is that they can basically say whatever they want about the cube within reason, of course. They can't go insulting the cube store that they're sponsored by, but they can say, okay, this cube isn't so great. They don't have to lie about it and say that it's amazing when it's terrible.
Number 4. Most, if not all, sponsorships are created equal, and most sponsored YouTubers are going to be receiving the same types of benefits.
I think this one mostly comes from people who only watch bigger YouTubers and don't watch smaller ones, because it's basically the idea that all the contracts are the same. Everyone's getting the same benefits, whether it be, free cubes or discount codes or whatever. This is not true at all. Usually, the smaller YouTubers do have slightly smaller benefits, and the bigger YouTubers are more likely to get, like, free cubes and stuff. Like, I don't get just straight-up free cubes, but, like, someone bigger does. So the contracts are not the same at all for different people. I can't really get into, like, specifics of it because that's kind of private and up to the company and the person that they're sponsored by, but yeah.
Number 5. Applying for a cubing sponsorship is a relatively short and simple process for most people.
I think this misconception sort of comes from the other misconception that subs are basically the most important thing in sponsorships. And I think it comes from that because people think that if subs are really the only thing that the company is looking for, when someone applies, they're just going to look and see, okay, do they have enough subs for us to sponsor them? But in reality, Sponsorship is a very long process in terms of application. Mine took over like 3 weeks because I was just emailing between me and the sponsorship coordinator and talking and asking questions and discussing things. And so, yeah, it's not a short process at all for most people. Some people, I guess, it can be, but for me, it was quite long actually.
Number 6. Sponsorship is the holy grail of YouTubing accomplishments, and every single cuber should make it their ultimate goal.
Now, this is a big one. A lot of people seem to think that sponsorship should be their ultimate goal in cubing, like it's the holy grail of cubing accomplishments. Now, it's okay for sponsorship to be one of your cubing goals, but if you make it out as one of your main goals, don't expect to have this huge feeling of joy once you finally achieve it. In fact, you might actually be disappointed once you finally achieve it if you've been hyping it up and like making it your big goal this whole time. Once you finally get it, it'll be like, wow, that was it. So yeah, sponsorship is definitely something that's very good and I really enjoy it, but you shouldn't make it out to be your only goal, your one thing that you're trying to get so badly, because then you'll just be disappointed.
Number 7. Being sponsored by 2 different cubing retailers is impossible because that doesn't make any sense.
Now this one is kind of obscure and a little random, but it's not really well known that you can actually be sponsored by 2 different cube retailers. Now, most people know that you can be sponsored by a manufacturer and a retailer, such as, GAN and Cubicle or whatever. But actually are certain situations where you can be sponsored by 2 retailers at once. A good example of this is the Cubing Critics. They are sponsored by Cubes UK and the Cubicle at the same time. Now the way this works is because Cubes UK is a completely different customer base than the Cubicle because they're in completely different parts of the world. It's okay for them to be sponsored by 2 companies because they're not really competitors. But something like the Cubicle and Speedcube Shop at the same time, that would not be allowed.
Number 8. It doesn't matter what cubing store you're sponsored by. If you're offered a cubing sponsorship by a store you don't even like, you should still take it because, after all, it's the holy grail of cubing accomplishments.
Now this one is somewhat related to the last misconception, and it's that you should just take a sponsorship from whatever company that offers it to you. I do not think this is true. I think you should only take a sponsorship or try to apply to the company that you really are passionate about. For me, that's the Cubicle. For you, it could be a completely different store, but anyways, you should only take it from that store because then you'll be putting in 100% effort. If you were just to get sponsored by some random store that offers it to you, then you wouldn't really be putting in all the effort because you really don't really have a big connection with them. You don't really want to support them as much as you would if it was another company.
Number 9. Bigger and more popular cubing stores are more selective and have higher standards and therefore sponsor less people. You'd have a much better chance of getting sponsored if you apply to a smaller store.
So this one is actually pretty interesting, and it's one I myself had before I was sponsored. And that because a bigger store is bigger, they must have higher standards and therefore they must be more selective and sponsor less people, right? Well, actually, that's not really true. Or it's kind of half true, but not really true. Yes, the bigger companies are going to be kind of selective, but think about it. Sponsorships cost money, obviously, because you're giving discounts and, in certain cases, free cubes to people. You can't always afford to just give it to a bajillion people. So the logic behind this is that smaller stores that have less money, they have to be more selective with who they sponsor. But a bigger company, yes, they're going to be selective and have high standards, but they will sponsor actually more people than the smaller stores. Yeah, this one, I could see where someone is coming from thinking this, but it's actually not really true.
Number 10. Sponsory is definitely a word. I saw it on the Cubicle's Discord server and Wikipedia, so it's gotta be true, right?
No!